Hey, everybody, this is Tim Sutton with a new perspective. If you're joining the show for the first time, just to fill you in briefly, I am a law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia, and I do a lot of work with individuals with disabilities. I've been in law enforcement going on 34 years, but spent since about 2003 working with a lot of families, dealing with autism, other intellectual disabilities, as well as Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Um, about a year or so ago, I ran across a guy, was semi introduced to him down in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I started following him. And I understood he had a daughter on the spectrum and started following some of the things he was doing. And he is an advocate for everything and anything out there. We could probably spend hours and hours and hours talking about him and the things he's involved with. But tonight I wanted to talk about his autism journey, and hopefully he can come back later. We can discuss some other issues. I would encourage you to look him up. His name is Mike Dempsey, and he is a World Trade Center survivor. He was there on 9/11, and also happened to be in Las Vegas at the time of the shooting out in Las Vegas a few years ago. So he's dealt with a lot of crisis situations, difficult situations. But he's constantly out there trying to improve the world, make the world a better place. And he does have a daughter, Kelly, on the spectrum. And I wanted to bring Mike on just to talk about his autism journey and some of the high points, low points in dealing with that journey. I had the opportunity to meet him about a week ago. He was coming down Interstate 95 from New York with Kelly. And we got to have lunch together, and I got to have a real good conversation. So I asked him if he'd come on, and he said he would definitely come on. So everybody, please meet Mike Dempsey.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, man, I appreciate you being on. I really do. I know you got a busy schedule.
Anytime for you guys. I mean, I'm really a pleasure, and I have a lot of admiration for what you're doing and your journey as well, and what you do to help others. So I want to thank you and take a moment to thank you for your service and for what you do to help others.
Well, no problem. I'm glad to do it. And you said your dad was a police officer, is correct?
Yeah, NYPD in New York, NYPD, and served, I guess, 20 plus years, and happily retired down here in North Carolina as well. So,
he's down there too. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's two of y'all with that accent down there, right?
Yeah, he talks a lot faster than me, believe it or not. People don't believe that because they think I talk fast, but they never been. He used to interrogate people to death. That was how they would confess, is they listened to him, and he would they would give up right away. So
right. Well, you've had a wild life. I mean, just researching and learning everything about you with the Trade Center, and I admire you for what you're doing to really support families and individuals that were impacted by that. And you are one of those people that have been impacted by it. I would encourage people to go out there and research you and look at some of your interviews. You have a story. You have a lot of stories. But from that to the Vegas situation, you ended up being in the middle of that. But what I wanted to really discuss was that autism journey. As an autism dad, Kelly was amazing sitting there talking to her, and I enjoyed the time spent with the two of you all. How did the diagnosis come for the autism? How was that when you received it the first time? Was it, a lot of parents have really struggled with that original diagnosis, and they want to give up, but you have taken an active role in your daughter's life, and she's cheering and doing so many things. And I heard all about her superpowers. But how was that diagnosis when you first got it?
It was unique for us because it was late. Most children are diagnosed with autism, early on. Even looking back at old home videos, you could not tell. I mean, really, you could not tell that she had anything of that nature. I'm going to say it was about sometime in June of 2007 would make her almost 5, where she started to have a Dora the Explorer, like a little hat, a little thing, and she got fixated with it. So she would start to twirl it around. We were on a cruise to Bermuda, started noticing, like she has this fixation thing, but just thought she'd grow out of it. Then that hat became like a constant. And it was probably about 6 to 7 years old, between kindergarten and first grade, we realized that some of these behaviors were becoming, what we thought was just OCD was more something that was not on, it was obviously, we didn't even know what Asperger's really even meant at the time. Still trying to, so probably in denial, I would say in the beginning, because can't be. I mean, she's brilliant. We knew that. She did have some problems early on with walking, and we had physical therapy, that kind of stuff. But that was stuff, or speech therapy, but that was minor stuff. But this, you really couldn't put a finger on it. I mean, it was just a shock when realizing, okay, I'm one of those parents that I never thought I'd be in that category. But that's Mickey Ward, Tim Tebow, which we've been part of that foundation for many years, doing a lot of stuff with Tim. But it was just something that came later. So I think the later we weren't as prepared for it, didn't have a lot of research, but really once I went from denial to acceptance, I had to say, okay, what am I going to do to help her? From what I would call to be more from a normalcy perspective, because I didn't want her identified or labeled. Being labeling for kids on the spectrum is very difficult for them. So having that stigma, but I knew I had to get her support with schools. So the first step was becoming an advocate, right? And advocacy became something I did a lot after 9/11, helping 9/11 families and survivors. So kind of channeled that into what I could do for Kelly. So I read the handbook, school, they have this like thick handbook, North Carolina, here's the IEP and what your kids can get. And I read that whole thing and I memorized it inside out. So when I went to that first IEP meeting, they probably thought they're going to have like a half-hour meeting, and it was a 6-hour meeting. And I talk fast, but it's 6 hours. I kept pounding and pounding.
Right.
I probably had in the history of Wake County, North Carolina, probably the thickest IEP for Kelly in the history of, but it was to get her the support she needed. Those meetings and even though I was traveling, I could have been traveling at the time I was traveling globally all around the world. I never missed a meeting. I'll tell you, in all those years, all the way through high school, never missed an IEP meeting. I'd done it from Italy, from different countries, Ireland, West Coast, it didn't matter, but I always made those meetings. And I think the schools, they had the principal, the superintendents, I actually had to sue them at one point because they weren't providing the services that she was required to have. So I pulled her out her in private school and sued them and got her back in under a new IEP. So advocacy is more of getting educated as a parent. You have to take that knowledge and really help your child. And a lot of parents don't, quite frankly. Just about 2 years ago, I got guardianship, legal guardianship over her. It's a simple process. Now, a lot of parents know that when they're 18, they're legally responsible for anything they do as an adult. And it's a tough thing as a parent when the cop comes to your door. It's part of the process, and they're saying that we're declaring your child. This is a declaration of incompetence. It's a very tough thing to look at that form when the sheriff comes to your door. But we know it's for better good. And going through the Social Security disability process is another step. But all these steps that we take is to prepare her for life, right? And she could turn around and not need those services, but I want her to have ability to access those services.
Should they be needed, yeah.
Right. A lot of parents don't. They are in denial. They just feel like they're going to handle it themselves, and they have some challenges. So I've always been one to say, you got to give your kid every chance to succeed. And she has a lot of special talents, and
of course,
kept her on, and hasn't been easy. I have a lot of stories. I could fill this whole show for 2 hours with things during middle school, high school, more middle school, I think, was those ugly. I think for all kids, right? Middle school was always the rough years. For her, yeah, that was a tough, because, parents, I think at that stage, the kids can do whatever they want to do in terms of bullying, right? In elementary school, they're more parents direct traffic, right, for their kids. They have birthday parties. They invite everybody. Middle school, that's where those birthday party invites get more selective, and the parents, they don't want their kid. They feel like they're contagious, like Kelly's going to give their kid autism, that type of thing. No doubt that was going on in people's mind. And, I had to contain my anger a lot of times too,
I'm sure.
Being down south, I get that hot New York Irish temper.
Right.
I had to control it as well. I had to learn a lot of things about restraint and control, and understanding the bigger picture that a lot of people just don't understand. And that's what
they're just ignorant. They're just ignorant is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine. I mean, you've done so much to advocate for Kelly. I would think you really opened the eyes to the school systems down there, and hopefully they've got a better appreciation or understanding
I
of
believe so.
autism, and it's hopefully flowing over to help some of the other kids that are going
Yeah.
through that whole school system, all those school systems. But you bring up the bullying thing, and it's that tears me apart because I've heard tons of stories, and it's simple things like, "Hey, do you want a piece of pizza?" And they go to get a piece of pizza. "Oh, no, you can't have one." And it's just those little things. And even in my line of work, we're seeing a lot of gangs and people out there trying to do bad stuff or trying to befriend people with autism,
Mm.
because people with autism want friends. They want the same thing everybody else has. And these gangs are taking, "Hey, take this package down the street, down two mailbox, second one on the right, stick it in there." And they're recruiting a lot of people with autism because, like you said, those birthday invites aren't coming. They don't have the friend network because they're different. And it's, you see it all through the schools, but even beyond the schools, where people are trying to take advantage. And you or I'm obviously not going to put up with that, and you're going to do everything you can to safeguard her, take care of her. But you've helped teach her so many life skills, and she is an advocate for herself.
Yeah.
And what I want to, you're out there helping so many people. You have a passion yourself for helping, mainly because a lot of the circumstances you've been in. Kelly has a passion for helping.
Yeah, she
My
does.
question is, did she get her passion from you, or did you
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it definitely
passion
came
from her?
from. Don't fall too far from the. No, Kelly has been like that since, always trying to help others. She had a friend, Cameron, who had Down syndrome and I'm sorry, cerebral palsy.
Oh, okay.
Artist syndrome is what he had. Special friendship that developed when Kelly was about 9 years old, 8 years old, I believe, and lasted till just last year. He passed away suddenly. It's been heartbreaking for her to deal with the loss of one of her best friends. And Cameron's in a wheelchair. He came to her 18th birthday and her graduation party, and it's just heartbreaking. But Kelly's always helped others that were even on her. A couple of years ago, she was doing her cheerleading, but also helped create a special needs team.
Oh,
They
okay.
didn't have one of those in North Carolina. So kids that were on the spectrum or were in wheelchairs did not have an outlet if they wanted to cheer.
Right.
Kelly created it under, I can't even remember how. Kelly has very good technology skills. So what Kelly did is she created a fake email account, which I love about her. And she emailed like the US, whatever it was, the part, whatever the cheerleading federation was,
right,
as a concerned parent, but it was actually her. She writes so good that and she appealed, and she was the one that got that team created, and they didn't even know it was her. So she has really great technical abilities and she learned, and she's determined. And that's one thing about Kelly. Even now with cheerleading, she didn't want to be labeled. So she chose, after that special needs team was created and she helped with the other kids, she wanted to cheer on a team with other athletes, competitive athletes, and be part of these competitions, Myrtle Beach, Orlando. And she did. And I'm very proud of all she's accomplished in cheerleading, and she still wants to continue, which is great. So,
good.
And she goes to Wake Tech. She goes to college. She's determined to get her 4-year degree, and she wants to do help kids with special needs. So special education is what she's looking to do with her life, which I think is a really great, noble pursuit.
Yeah, and it's just an example of what you can do. And I've done a lot of classes for parents, and my children, they're neurotypical children. I don't have any children with disabilities, and a lot of times people ask me, "Why are you teaching this? What is the reasoning?" And again, a lot of it is just how I've met people through my job, interacting with a lot of the families dealing with disabilities, and realizing, and originally it started from a wandering elopement issue. Being able to find them quickly if they got away from their parent or the caregiver. But as I met the families, I began to realize that public safety, we were going on a lot of calls for service dealing with the autism and other disability, but we didn't necessarily understand it. We would go in there and revert back to our training, thinking we're doing the best thing, exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And in reality, it wasn't the right thing to do. We went in there with good hearts, thinking we were doing it. And what I try to do is get out there and train public safety or anybody that'll listen to understand it, so that when we do go out there, we can do our job more effectively. And make the families aware of the resources, because there's so many out there doing it by themselves, and they get that diagnosis and they shut down. And they don't really have that support system. But like we were talking before the show, having groups you can go out and meet with the families and talk about issues. You find that there are a lot of other people dealing with the exact same issues, and you may have an answer for them with that IEP or whatever it is. And it's just being able to network through that journey to take care of your loved one. So
yeah, I started that with UNC, the Autism Dads Conference a couple of years ago. We had a couple of athletes, BJ Surhoff and a few others that joined and kind of showed a lot of their challenges. And we started this group. It's like a roundtable Zoom. We just had one tonight earlier, and we get like 15, 20 dads, that get together and talk about what's on their mind. And each one of us shares a lot of personal things, and we're not here to, it's a judgment-free zone, have a moderator, but we're really there to support each other and provide some comfort. A lot of times psychologists really one-on-one, it's not for everybody. I found at the 9/11 that for me, I didn't want to do one-on-one counseling. So we joined together 9/11 families and survivors with Oklahoma City bombing family members that had gone through a tragedy 6 years earlier. And we developed this kind of peer exchange group. So we were having peer support every April 19th in Oklahoma City. We bring them up to New York on 9/11. And that became a healing for a lot of us that didn't want to do that one-on-one thing, because we felt the psychologists, what are they going to tell us? I mean, even if they're trained in PTSD, they didn't live through 9/11. They didn't live through a traumatic incident like that. We felt comfort dealing with people just to be there, support, give them a hug. We can't solve their problems, their challenges, because it doesn't end for us, and the same thing with autism. It continues. The challenges only get tougher as they get older. I tell people, when they're younger, that's when it's easier. It gets tougher as they become teenagers and then transition into adults.
Oh, I'm sure. And it's like me. I mean, and you talk about the psychiatrist, psychologist coming in to try to help you, support you, and that's great. But until they've been through something like you've been through, in my position, like I said, my children do not have autism or disability. But for me to come into a situation and tell you, oh, I know what you're feeling, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't, and I can't go that route. But that you've got that support system, people that have dealt with the crisis, the tragedies, and you're still trying to work through it. And I know, some of the interviews I've seen, it says, you probably won't ever have closure to what happened, what you've dealt with, but you're still out there trying to help yourself. And I think you helping others is helping yourself as well.
Yeah. You show them adversity. Look, as you know, I've been training for a charity boxing match for about 2.5 years ago with Jerry Cooney, an old retired boxer, for his charity. Helps out underprivileged kids in New Jersey. Got canceled. COVID happened. Trained hard, lost weight, got in shape. And I decided when the fight was canceled early this year, I said, you know what, I'm going to do it for Team Mickey Ward Charities. It's another retired boxer that does a lot of stuff for kids in Massachusetts. And now all of a sudden I got this opportunity through Mickey Ward Charities and my own college football teammate, Mike Tyson Fight Night in Albany. It's a dream. I'm going to be going back to Albany where I play football, college football, professional football for the arena football team up there. And I'll be getting in a ring July 22nd with Mike Tyson there and Mickey Ward, going 3 rounds with a former cruiserweight champion. But you're really showing the message to Kelly that you don't give up on your dreams. My dream was in the ring. Fight ain't over is what I keep saying. Fight wasn't over, and I kept going. So I want her to never give up. Whatever your dream is, whatever it is, keep going until you get to the finish line. It's because I promoted it for 2 years. It's talk is talk. Got to walk the walk. So I'm teaching her you can turn that into action. And but if I make that happen, it's going to show her something.
Right. And she goes, and a lot of the pictures we have, or if anybody looks you up, a lot of them, Kelly's there, and your other daughter's there with you. What does Kelly think about? What do your daughters think about meeting all these people out there that
you don't know who they are? That's the funny thing about Kelly is when she meets boxers or football players, she doesn't have that awe factor. She doesn't care. Johnny Damon is like her uncle to her. She doesn't know that Johnny played 18 years, won 2 World Series. She just likes to go to his house and go in the pool and to play with his kids. That's all Kelly really likes, the dogs, so that's really Kelly. Doesn't have that filter. The sports doesn't really impact her, but she does treat people. She has really respect for people who treat her with that kindness. So there's a couple of athletes in particular, like Irish Mickey Ward, the boxer, Johnny Damon, there's people like that, Tim Tebow, that have connected with her in a way that is really so special, which so she doesn't judge them by what their accolades are on the football field, baseball field, but how they treat her in terms of respect. So,
and that's the thing is too many people see somebody with a disability and they're looking down on them or talk down to them, and they don't seem to realize how intelligent. They hear everything you're saying. They know what's going on. They may have challenges with the social skills or communication skills, but they're absolutely brilliant. And I've said it numerous times. I mean, look what people with autism are capable of doing. You've got, Rachel Barcelona. She's a model, and she's making a huge name for herself. And it's just getting in there and get that diagnosis and just say, I'm not giving up. And you just keep on going because they're capable of so many things. And I honestly think our country would be the dumbest country on the planet if it was not for autism.
Yeah.
All these rockets going up in Florida, Elon Musk and all, what would we be doing as a country if there was no autism? So, I wonder sometimes with the sensory issues, and I'm sure you've seen that with Kelly, but I tell families that they're absorbing so much that I think we, being neurotypical, we walk past it. We don't even realize it's going on or it's there. And I think they absorb so much stuff that I wonder sometimes if we're the ones with the special need and they get it.
Yeah.
They're picking up on all that.
But think about how many people didn't have that label when we were growing up, right? That had Asperger's or autism. We didn't have those labels or diagnoses back then. We grew up with a lot of people in our class that had it. You look back now, you're like, man, that kid had it, but we didn't call it that. And those poor kids had to go through school like we did, right? They didn't get IEPs. And it was Dan Aykroyd, the actor, Ghostbusters, all those movies. He's on the Asperger's spectrum. A lot of people don't know that. You can see a lot of actors, a lot of famous actors these days. And I think that Good Doctor show, and I met one of the actors from the show, Richard Schiff, who I've been privileged to meet a number of times at Joe Namath's and a few other golf events. And he's got a kid on the spectrum too, which I didn't know. He plays obviously the doctor's boss on the show and everything.
Okay.
But what a great show that is. If you watch The Good Doctor, I think it's very authentic. And I was really drawn to it because it has a lot of real life, and they really do a good job portraying the life of somebody who's on the spectrum, dealing with the challenges of having that kind of job. And I think the fact is it's kind of real, which is
and I think where we have, there's doctors that I've been acquainted with is you kind of question, and they may not have the best bedside manner, but when it comes to being a doctor, they know what's going on, they know what to do, when to do it, and it's pretty impressive. But our big thing is we're starting a nonprofit here locally in the Richmond area, trying to advocate and like we were saying, advocate for our friends and with our friends with disabilities, and also teach them how to advocate for themselves. And I think you've done an absolutely amazing job with everything that you're involved with. And again, I want people to realize that, Kelly sees all these people you come in contact with and interact with, and she doesn't see this person up on a pedestal. They got 2 World Series rings. It's how she gets treated by them that matters. And we've even, as far as employers, I tell people, if you want to hire somebody who's going to be on time, they're going to do the job, they're going to take the breaks when you tell them to take the breaks, they're going to be back to work, and they're going to be so fulfilled inside because they're accomplishing something. Maybe you're earning a paycheck, but they're some of the best employees you could ever want. And locally here, we've got Lowe's Home Improvement. Actually, it has a friend of mine working for them, and he's been there. He can tell you exactly how many days he's been to work over the past 2 or 3 years. And they actually took a chance. They've hired him full time with benefits. And I can tell you, you talk about the fixations. When you go to Lowe's, if he is working, you will not find a shopping cart in the parking lot. Every single shopping cart is going to be put away for somebody else to use. So just giving people that opportunity, and you're able to use your platform for so many different things.
Well, we have a mutual friend, Ben Hartramp. You know Ben's story.
Yes.
Ben was an Eagles autism ambassador.
Right.
he reached out to me about a year and a half ago, and I said I need to help him. He wanted to meet Roger Goodell. I said I don't know if I can get you to meet Roger Goodell, but I'm going to try to get you there one step at a time.
Right, right.
And I was invited to be a celebrity captain at Ron Jaworski's golf outing June of last year up in Atlantic City. I said, what a great event for Ben to be involved in. It's the Eagles, Ron Jaworski. This is a step in the right direction to meet his heroes and volunteer. Got him in there. It wasn't easy, but got him in there. And guess what? After the event was over, he did such a great job. They gave him a job. And as you know, Ben is like a on game day ambassador. Hangs out in the suites, and he was just back there last weekend again with the Eagles and Ron Jaworski's event again. And he's got this whole platform. And he's out there speaking across the country. So his confidence level is now exploded, which is great. I mean, he's been on the Ellen Show, but he's done so many successful things. But Ben, and he's connected with Roger Goodell. I didn't get him to meet them in person yet, but he's connected with Roger Goodell, and because he wants to get autism sensory rooms in every stadium in the country. Right. And that's his dream. Rachel's involved in that as well. Rachel Barcelona, but Ben's got a platform now. It's about building confidence. And Kelly, the show we did, Dads and Daughters, a few years ago, was to really give her a platform, build confidence. You know, she was sitting in the seat next to me, got to interact with on all these issues we had about bullying and a lot of great episodes. We had 24 episodes, and Kelly had a voice. It was her way to really broadcast herself and hear herself speak and really have a voice instead of just writing. She was out there speaking, interacting, which is great. So love doing the show. It was a lot of work. So I'm glad you're taking on the mantle of doing your show, because I gave up. It was hard. A lot of work goes into these shows, but you do a great job with what you're doing, Tim.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do. And I'd love if Kelly ever wants to come on the show, I'd love to have a conversation with her and, just let her tell her story or some things she's passionate about, and just really spotlight, that's what I try to do, is bring people on that have lived the journey or living the journey, but also the people who have autism who are doing some amazing things. I've got a young man I had on the show with his mom up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, Joey. Joey, he's got Autism by Joey. He's got his own art studio, and he paints, and he'll tell you all about the paintings. I got to go up 2 weeks ago and see his studio and visit with him for a little while. But bringing in, whether I've brought in Wings of Hope, it's a equine therapy. They've got these horses there. They bring kids who've gone through trauma or dealing with a disability, bring them out there and let them interact with the horses and all. So it's just spotlighting people and letting people know what amazing things are going on out there. So, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on and, stopping on the way home last week. I know you were on the way home. Once you got home, you had to go hit the gym to get your work.
We were hungry for Chick-fil-A. That Chick-fil-A, we smelled it from a mile away. So I'm glad we hit Chick-fil-A. That was really good. That's even being from New York. Once I discovered Chick-fil-A, I said I'm a Southerner now. So there you go.
There you go. You got it. But so the fight is June 22nd, you say?
July 20. Yeah, I wouldn't be ready. June 22nd is tomorrow, or I wouldn't be ready.
You're not ready for tomorrow? I think you said when I saw you last week, you had 6 weeks. Now you got 5 weeks.
Yeah, 4 weeks actually. And I'm training at Mayweather's gym tomorrow in Vegas, actually. So I'll be doing some training with some of Floyd's team, and just trying to. I'm 51 years old in 2 months, so I will retire July 23rd from the boxing ring. I'm going to get in there July 22nd. And there won't be any rematch like Creed and Rocky Balboa. I'm done after that.
So you said. So you said.
I will see. Well, Mike Tyson will be there. You never know. Maybe me and Tyson might want to mix it up.
Yeah, he might. He might want a piece.
He might want a piece of beer, actually, but we'll see.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we can do this again. But let's stay in touch. Have you got any contact information if anybody wants to research?
It's my website's themikedempsey.com, very simple, and my Instagram handle is realmikedempsey.com, or I'm sorry, at realmikedempsey, whatever the Instagram thing is. So easy to find.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, brother, and again, I appreciate you being here, and let's stay in touch.
All right, well, shout out to Anthony backstage as well. That's my guy.
Anthony, yes, doing a good job.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Well, everybody, I appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you got to learn about Mike. And again, I would encourage you to go out there and research what he's doing. He's making an impact, impacting a lot of people, dealing with his own journey and, taking care of Kelly and his other daughter, and just he's an amazing guy. If you sit there and read up on his story, he's been through a whole lot, and he's taken some negative situations and turning them into positives to help himself and everybody else he comes in contact with. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, and everybody take care. And Dad, I love you.